Well, I'm delighted to be joined now by Andrew Lilico, the Executive Director and Principal of Europe Economics. Andrew, first of all, where we are now is a very peculiar place. Has Liz Truss junked her entire economic strategy?
Absolutely, everything. Every single bit of it seems to have gone, as far as I can see.
When we're looking at the strategy in the round, however, perhaps the most significant part might have been that supply-side reform. Are you not expecting that to come either now?
Well, I don't think there's any political will for doing any kind of politically difficult or high-risk things, and all of those supply-side reforms were very politically difficult. That's why they've not been enacted in the past. They were difficult things to do. So in these circumstances, it seems to me that she'll have no political strength whatsoever to implement anything hard. So it might be that you find a few cosmetic things and they find a few, small things that look like they can tell a story, that they're still attempting that agenda. But the reality is that anything hard isn't going to happen.
We're in this funny sort of position where I've been looking at all the various parts of the mini-budget and seeing which bits the Conservatives have now reneged on and which bits the Labour Party actually started off supporting. By some measures, perhaps by value, it looks now that the Labour Party supports more elements of the mini-budget than the Conservative Party do. Where are we now in terms of the party that call themselves the government in waiting? Might they actually be a lower tax government than the Conservatives?
Well, it's very hard to guess exactly where things are going to stand, partly because the situation's so fluid, and it's a little bit difficult to criticise the Labour Party for not having a response yet, when the whole situation changed as recently as yesterday. Jeremy Hunt, with his complete reversal of the mini-budget, the biggest thing that he did with that was to circumscribe the energy package. So whereas previously the energy package was going to go on for 2 years and nobody believed it would actually be cancelled after 2 years, because that was immediately before the general election. So we could have had hundreds of billions of pounds of energy price exposure going on indefinitely into the future. We've switched from that now to only the energy package lasting until next April. And given the recent events in bond markets, for all that people say it was politically impossible not to have an energy package, I think that people might think that the political pain of allowing the energy package to expire might be less than the political pain of repeating the kinds of bond market events that we've had over the past couple of weeks. So it seems to me that it is now credible that the energy package will in fact come to an end next April, and they'll replace it with something much more credible, much more targeted, much more limited in time. And the consequence of that is that whereas when we were going to have the previous energy package that Kwarteng announced, we were going to have an absolutely enormous fiscal consolidation. He was originally going to do it in November, presumably well over £100 billion of fiscal correction that was going to be needed in order to pay for that, large tax rises, spending cuts and so on.
So Andrew Lilico, is it your assessment, therefore, that the biggest mistake of this government so far wasn't the tax cuts that were proposed in that mini-budget, but were the rather larger spending commitments encompassed within that energy price guarantee?
Well, I think that's very clear. I mean, I was on your show through this summer explaining how Truss, when she was saying there were going to be no energy handouts, what she was going to do instead. So she was saying that she was going to have a plan of doing these short-term tax cuts and that there were going to be these other economic forces. Obviously, I was completely wrong that was what she was going to do, because as soon as she got elected, she immediately announced, having gone from no energy handouts and got elected on that basis, she announced the mother and father of all energy handouts and subsidies is with this absolutely enormous energy price package. So that completely changed the situation. And of course, she then initially hoped to carry on doing the tax cuts, which she'd announced as well, which created an enormous black hole, which she was going to have to fund after a couple of months. And obviously markets didn't want to wait, and we are where we are. But that's the fundamental issue. That was always the problem. She needed to circumscribe that in some way if she was to end the market volatility. And as soon as Hunt has announced that, that really eliminates the vast majority of the problem. The energy package was the reason she had the problem, then curtailing the energy package has been the solution. I don't think they really needed to curtail that much of the rest of it at all, to be honest.